In this video, I'm going to be going over speech-sound hierarchy. Now, what that is it's a term referred to by speech language pathologists, or SLPs, when talking about the order in which we work on any sound that a child needs help with. So there's a very specific order, and we do it in this specific sequence because it will help the child achieve the greatest level of success when working on the sound. So I like to go through these with parents, these levels, to help them understand that we need to start at the most basic level and work our way up, because if we're jumping around to different levels, it's going to cause a lot of added stress to the child, and you'll run into a lot of frustration on their part and on your part as well. So we'll go through and we'll talk about each of these levels and why it's essential to follow this sequence. Hi everyone, welcome to My Own SLP. I'm Rachel and I'm a licensed speech language pathologist, and I create videos with step-by-step strategies showing parents and caregivers how you can help your child increase their speech skills at home. I have a video that comes out every Tuesday and on Thursday showing you different strategies for all of the different speech sounds, as well as ideas and activities for how you can make the process fun and engaging for both you and your child. Be sure to hit subscribe so that you're sure to see each of my videos as I show you step by step how to work on your confidence as well as their ability to communicate with others. On my website, linked down in the description below at myownslp.com, you can find this free form with the speech sound hierarchy. And on here, you can have it to refer back to as often as you need as you work on specific speech sounds with your child, so that you can remember the order to follow as you're working on any speech sounds with your child. So let's go through and we'll look at each level, and I'll give you a description of each one. Now, on here, I have the basic levels that we work on, and some SLPs will break these down even more, but the ones that I have here on my chart are very sufficient for parents as you are going through and working on the different sounds with your child. So the very basic level is right here at the top. You'll see that on the chart we start small and we progress into bigger and bigger steps. So that'll help you know where to start. We start small and we work towards a bigger and bigger step. So the very basic and simplest step is working on a sound in isolation. And what we mean by working on a sound in isolation is working on the sound all by itself, nothing else, just that sound. So on my chart, you will see that I use the S sound for my example. So if you notice that your child, when telling you a story or having a conversation with you, is struggling to produce the S sound correctly, maybe they have a lisp and they are protruding their tongue and it's coming out more as a TH, instead of an S, then we want to go through and we want to check, okay, at which level can they even make an S correctly? Because we don't want to jump into correcting our child while they're trying to tell us a story or have a conversation with us if they can't even make that S sound just completely on its own. So what you would do is, if you notice that they're struggling with that sound, we want to take a step way, way back. We want to start at the very beginning basic step and see, can they even do a S on their own? And on my channel, something that you will find very helpful is, for every speech sound, I create videos showing you how to work on these sounds at each one of these levels. And so instead of giving you a video for a sound and just say, here's how you work on it, I break it down even more so that you can work on the sound at whatever step, whatever level your child is at, and you will know exactly how to tackle it at each level. For isolation, for the example of an S, we want to know, can my child even do it on its own? If they can't produce even a S, if they can't do that, then there's no way we're going to be correcting our child when they're trying to have a conversation with us. Because if you look at the chart, you can see how many levels we are skipping if they can't do it here in isolation, we can't skip all of these other levels and expect them to be able to say it in conversation. So that will help you greatly as you're working on sounds with your child, because you'll find, especially as you have been working on a sound, it's so common to want to correct our child at any level. At any point when we hear them misuse the sound, we want to jump in and correct them and point it out. But it is essential that you keep these levels in mind so that you know at what level to be giving correction, so that your child doesn't become overwhelmed and so that they can feel levels of success as they're working. And it'll be a lot more motivating for your child, and both you and your child will run into a lot less frustration if you follow this. As you figure out which sounds your child needs to work on, check out my video with that sound. And if you need to start in isolation, then check out the video specifically for isolation, because I also break it down even more and help you understand the importance of knowing if the child can produce the S on their own or if they need to imitate you or repeat after you. Check out those specific videos in isolation if your child struggles to produce a sound just on its own. Okay, moving on, the next step is going to be producing that sound in syllables. So for the example of S, you'll look and you'll notice that what you do is you're going to take the sound and you're going to add vowel sounds to it. So it's not just a vowel letter, any sound that a vowel would make. So here I've got si, sa, si. You could also add to it si, so, say. So hopefully that makes sense how we take the target sound or the sound that we are working on, in this case the S, and then we add a vowel sound to it. So that would be the next step up from the sound in isolation. Now, as soon as your child is able to produce the target sound with those vowels on a pretty consistent basis, then you can feel comfortable to move on to the next step, that sound in words. So now we're going to start putting it into words. So in this example, you can see I have words like sun, seed, and then pass as well. A lot of times when we think of working on a sound, especially at the word level, we just try and think of words that start with that sound. But as you can see in the example of pass, this word has the target sound, or the S, at the end of the word. So check out my website. I also have word lists for you with a lot of different words for each sound that you can work on, so that you don't have to try and come up with all of these words on your own. I have lots of lists so that you can use those, and you can eliminate that step for you of trying to come up with words on your own. Okay, so going on from words, the next level would be moving on to phrases. And so you're just taking the words that your child has consistently been able to say on their own using the sound correctly, and now we're just going to add one or two words to that word to create a short phrase. And so as you look at this, you can see how we're just adding a little at a time. So as they are able to say the sound on its own, then we're going to add another letter just to make it a little bit longer. As they get consistent with that, we're going to add to that and make it longer. It's going to become a full word. And as they become consistent with that, then we're going to add words in front or after that word to make a short phrase. So see how we're just doing small bite-sized pieces for your child. The goal is to help them be successful at each of these levels. So we're adding just a little bit at a time. The phrases, and you can see the examples here. I have some of the words from up above. So sun, you're just adding the sun. And if they do well with that, you can make it a little bit longer and say the hot sun. Or seed, my seed. So see how it's still really, really short, but we're adding just a little bit to it to make it a little bit more difficult for your child to extend their ability to use that with other words, other sounds in it. As SLPs, we usually like to say that before moving on to the next level, we like to use percentages to kind of gauge where our child is at. So we'll say like 80 to 90% of the time, they use the correct production. So don't feel like before moving on to the next level, your child has to produce that sound 100% of the time without any mistakes ever. Like if there's a couple mistakes every now and then, that's okay. If you can kind of gauge that to where they are using that sound 80 to 90% of the time at that specific level, then you can feel very comfortable in moving on to the next step or the next level. Moving on from phrases, then we are going to jump into using the sound in sentences. And so again, it could be very helpful to check out those word lists on my website. Not only do I have word lists, I also have pictures on there so that you can use pictures to help your child talk about a picture with that specific sound in it to make it a little bit more fun and visually exciting for your child. So check those out so that you don't have to try and come up with any of these words or pictures on your own. So what you can do as you're doing the sentence level, you can use that word list or the pictures, and you can use it to just come up with a simple sentence about some of the words that your child now consistently can say with the target sound in it. So for this example, for sun, we have the big hot sun, or when doing seed, I planted a seed. So see, we went from a short phrase, my seed, to now we're doing I planted a seed. So again, we're starting with small bite-sized pieces and just growing it little by little, just gradually making it a little bit more complex as we go. And again, on my website, I have lists with sentences in them so that you don't have to come up with your own sentences. You can if you want to, but along with that, there's also other things to consider, little things that could throw your child off and decrease their accuracy or their progression, such as if you're working on the S sound. When you're first doing it, I like to come up with a sentence that only has that target sound show up once. If you have a few other words in the sentence that you're practicing with the S sound, that could throw your child off. So if you're working on the word sun and your child knows that they're going for the word sun, they're focusing on getting that S in the word sun. If you have a sentence, for example, where the sun was really hot on Saturday. So see how you have that sound or a similar sound showing up multiple times, then you're going to notice, oh no, they didn't get the S on Saturday because they're so focused on the word sun. So that is another way to break things down. And again, check out my individual videos for these specific levels because I will go through and I will help you know how to navigate that. And also check out those word lists and the sentence lists because I have gone through and I have created lists specifically for you to know, start with these sentences first and then go towards these where I incorporate more of the sound. But then if you go and you use those sentence lists, then you will know exactly to start with these simple ones and you'll have them get more complex so that you're not having to come up with those on your own. Finally, after your child has become very consistent using the sound in sentences, then you can move on towards trying to do it in conversation. So it can, when I say conversation, it can either be you guys are talking about something or your child is telling you a story or you're asking them questions and it's kind of a back and forth interaction with you and your child, or they're telling you something. It's longer than a sentence or two. Again, check out my videos. I have ideas for you showing how you can work on that in conversation. Just to go back and review, you can see now how as we start in isolation, if the child can't say the sound just on its own or even in syllables, having us correct them at the sentence or the conversation level is going to be extremely frustrating for our child. It's not realistic to expect them to be able to use it at those levels if they can't even do it at the basic level, and you are going to get a lot of pushback from your child because they aren't going to feel any levels of success if we are putting that unrealistic expectation on them to produce it in conversation. Go to my website and get the speech sound hierarchy chart so that you can have that to follow along as you're working on each of these sounds, and I guarantee that that will help make this a much smoother process as you're working on any speech sound. All right, I hope some of the strategies in that video are ones that your child specifically needs right now as you are striving to help your child increase their articulation skills. Let me know in the comments down below what was helpful or if you have any questions. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can see each of those videos coming out twice a week on Tuesday and Thursday, showing you all the various strategies for working on different speech sounds as well as making this process fun and engaging. Now, I hope that you will go share your goodness with someone today, and I will see you in the next one.